Okay. Hi, it's Lori and Lawrence back for another episode of Flat Earth Something. We keep changing the name and coming up with different ideas and so on. But we haven't spoken much except maybe a little on Facebook for about a month, and took some time off, and so has Lawrence. And so we're back together again to just sort of update. We started this whole thing when we called it This Week in Flat Earth. So maybe we're not doing every week anymore, but and maybe we will. I just don't know, but we are this week. So hi, Lawrence. Good to see you again.
Sorry,
and
just waited.
There he is. And it's 5:00 p.m. Eastern Standard Time in the U.S. and it's 10 p.m. for Lawrence over in the UK.
It's
so
early start.
I always appreciate Lawrence staying up late to chit-chat with me for a little while. I have this set for 3 hours, Lawrence. I don't know whether we'll make it or whether we won't, and it doesn't really matter because we'll talk as long as we feel like it, and then we'll quit. So anyway, since we last talked, there's been quite a bit of activity going on in the Flat Earth community, and some good, some not so good, some interesting, some boring. And but the last few episodes that Lawrence and I were on, it was pretty much dedicated to trying to remap Earth. And we set out, our goal was to define or debunk the AE map and the model that's associated with it. And we felt very confident that we did that. And we explained why. And if you don't know any of that backstory, I invite you to go back and look at some of our older videos from a month or so ago. And maybe all the way back to 6 months ago when we got this whole thing started. And so this week, though, we're going to just chit-chat about different things happening. And I'm going to have Lawrence start off with things that he's found interesting to discuss this week. And each of us have just as a little fair warning, each of us have our own opinions, our own editorial opinions. We don't always agree. We don't often disagree, actually. But when we do, we say so. And no animosity, no problem, because everybody's entitled to their belief system. So with that, take it away, Lawrence.
Yeah, well, I've had about 100 Facebook friend requests since I was last done, but I haven't added any on. But I had a look at where they lived, and one guy lived in Malmo in Sweden, which is a fair bit higher up than in the UK. I haven't chatted with him yet, but I intend to. I'm going to ask him if he'll map out the sun. I don't know where Malmo is in Sweden. I haven't checked yet, but they're not going to be far off a midnight sun in Malmo, so they should be getting sun for over 20 hours a day up there. And I just want him to map out where the sun is, from the compass point of view throughout the day. I'm going to do the same myself on June the 21st, and I've bought a load of compasses. So if anybody would like to partake anywhere in the world, I've got 20 compasses, and I will send you one free of charge. Just send me your name and where you want it sent. Tell us who you are so we know who's taking part. And it's a little experiment just to see, on this longest day in the Northern Hemisphere. We can do this. Anybody in the Southern Hemisphere wants to do it as well. It'll be interesting. But the further south, the better. And the point is you're going to have to get up early at 4 o'clock and get down to somewhere relatively flat. Well, no, the whole Earth is supposedly flat, but somewhere that's not obscured by mountains or high buildings. A good place is the sea if it's flat to the other side of it, and you've got a good 360-degree view of where you are. So the idea is to get up really early, it doesn't need to be on the 21st, the 20th or the 22nd to do, because it's more or less the same on those days. And get down to where you are, take your camera with you, your mobile phone that does short videos. The beach is a good place, so you can actually map out the cardinal points of the directions, north, south, east and west. Just mark it out in the sand if you like, just carve it out in some wet sand, north, south, east and west. There should be some reference point. You might be going directly into the sea, or, there may be some buildings nearby where we, the viewer, can have a reference point, and then get down there at 4 o'clock. And when the sun comes up, we can see where the sun's actually rising, and then come back later in the day, maybe at lunchtime, if you get a chance at noon. Let's see where the sun is then come back in the evening, getting on for 10 o'clock or 9 o'clock, and let's see what direction the sun is when the sun goes down. Anybody in Sweden, I've got a compass for you. You're on my priority list, because Sweden or Finland or anywhere up there, Greenland. I know there's somebody from Greenland who is a flat earther, because they watch my video. If you go on the statistics saying what countries have watched, it tells you how many, and I had one from Greenland. So it's a pity you can't isolate them individually and make contact, but so that's something I've got coming up, mapping out the sun and actually seeing how far around it goes. Or, I'm thinking it's going in a straight line, but it does appear to curve around, which in my view is the bending of light. It isn't actually curving, it's just coming straight across. But unless you're on the equator, it's not directly overhead, it's some distance away and moving across, but gives the impression of doing an arc. But there's something I'd like you to do, Laurie.
Okay.
If you can actually go on a little search engine and get on and share a screen with the Flat Earth Society itself, bring the screen up, because I'd like to chat with you what's actually on there, because you might find this interesting, should I say.
Are we talking about flatearthsociety.org? No, because that's Paul Michael Bale's site.
The one that was in place before, there was the masses of truthers converting to flat Earth. If you do a Google search, it's the first one that comes up.
Well, it's flatearthsociety.org. So apparently Paul Michael Bales has done a good job.
He's top of the list, is he? Can't
okay,
be.
The flatearthsociety.org, and it's not .org.
Let's have a look. Let me have a look.
Good Lord, he's taken over the world.
If you got Flat Earth Society, the first one that he brings up is that Paul Michael Bales?
Yes, that's what I said. He's taken over Flat Earth Society. Good for him.
Well, all right. Well, where's the official Flat Earth Society gone?
Hold on a second. Okay, now I got it. The Flat Earth Society. Okay. Well, let me do.
Well, that's okay. Well, you've caught me then, because I assume that the first one that came up was the controlled opposition one. So it's Paul Michael Bales who's got.
Yes, that's the one that comes up first.
But where's the original one gone?
Well, it's tfes.org is what it let me do a screen share here. I was swearing I was not going to do a screen share.
All right.
Okay.
Well, let's just bring that one up anyway. Let's have a look what it's got.
Okay, hold on. Let me see why I can't get the Flat Earth Society to be a screen share. There it is. Okay.
Right. So they've been demoted then.
Yeah. Good for Paul Michael Bales. I'm glad to see that the Flat Earth Society didn't come up first. And it's possible that on my particular search engine, because I did visit Paul's website not too long ago, that's why it came up first for me.
Well,
whether or not it does for other people, I don't know. Is this the one you're talking about?
No. I admit my mistake in assuming that Paul Michael Bales one was the official one, because
Okay.
that was the one that always came up first.
Okay.
So I don't know whether Paul Michael Bales don't watch many. He won't be watching this. He doesn't. He watches very few YouTubes. He's having a few personal problems at the moment, anyway. But no, I was assuming that his was the Flat Earth Society because it was the one that came up first. But it was interesting to know on his that he was linking in, and of course I thought it was the original one. He was linking in all this zetetic stuff, the same as what, you know.
Well, he is pretty zetetic. He started out with his whole flat Earth education, reading Robotham and those guys, you know, the old stuff, the old book. So that's where he got his start in flat Earth, and that's why he claims that he shared that with Eric Dubay and got Eric Dubay started in flat Earth. Of course, Eric says no, he didn't. That he, you know, shared him some books, but that he's not giving him credit for starting him into the flat Earth research. So,
all right. Well, you know,
that's another argument.
There was that Daniel Shenton interview of the old, you know, original Flat Earth Society.
Right.
He did a short 3-minute interview with some. He wasn't on camera, with the BBC, and he said the Flat Earth Society, as it is now, used to be the Universal Zetetic Society. So you would assume that they would support the work of Robotham. So my question to you, Laurie, is what is the difference between the old Flat Earth Society with Daniel Shenton and co. And the information that's being put out by 99% of YouTubers now? What is the difference?
Well, one of the beliefs of the Flat Earth Society version is that to create gravity, or the illusion of gravity, that the Earth is actually moving up at something like 9 inches a minute or so. I don't even know what it is. It's crazy, but that it's always rising, and that's what's that's what's creating gravity. So that's one of the bones of contention that people like, you know, Dubay argue that the Flat Earth Society is disinformation.
All right. Well, I know about that one, but what else? What ways are they different?
I mean, I don't know how many other things, because every time I turn around, I somebody shares something of you know, Dubay, for example, and he talks about the round Earth, the circle Earth, and the ice wall, and I've heard the dome, and then he maybe doesn't talk about a dome. He's sort of changed the story a little bit. But whatever it is that he is promoting with regards to the flat Earth model at any given time is his and his alone. So it does not represent the flat Earth at all, because each individual person who's a flat earther, as far as I'm concerned, I've had a group, several groups in Facebook, plus this YouTube channel for a year now. And I can't find two people that agree on what the flat Earth means or is or looks like at all. No two people agree, not even you and I.
Maybe that was the intention, because there's...
Well, whatever the intention was, I do believe there was a direct intention to infiltrate to create and then infiltrate with a designed flat Earth movement information from the get-go back in February of last year. And I didn't want to believe it, because I was one of those people who came in right about that time. And I don't miss much on the internet as far as conspiracy theories are concerned, and haven't for many, many years. I look at everything. I don't care if it's just sounds as bizarre and bogus as reptiles or chemtrails or cloning. I mean, I look at everything, and then I make my own decision on what that means. And so when the flat Earth came about the first time, and then the second time, first time I was like, nah, I don't even want to go there. And then the second time, okay, yeah, I took a cursory look. The third time, I started really watching some videos and reading some blogs and some books and decided that, okay, there's merit to this. And then I went in and investigated it for myself and proved it to myself that the Earth is indeed flat. Then it took me a little while to determine why now? Why did this come out now? And who's zooming who here? And who's behind this? So when I first couple of times I heard Dubé, I thought, yeah, this guy knows what he's talking about. He's a smooth talker. A lot of what he says makes sense. A lot of it's verifiable, which is classic disinformation because they're always going to give you 90% plus of truth. But then, same thing happened with Sargent, same thing happened with Powerland, and I determined that each one of these guys is saying a different thing. So that right there starts to show you that, there's a disinformation campaign going on, or everybody is just so darned independent in their thinking that no two people agree on what the flat Earth means or is or the model is or whatever. Then I did do my homework and I investigated the concave Earth and I investigated the Flat Earth Society's version, and they got me at hello with that, Earth rising up to make gravity, because that's not even needed. So then the next thing though that I did figure out was that whether or not the flat Earth movement, because it isn't a movement, it's not an organic one, it's becoming one, but it wasn't to start with. It was created. It was sort of shoved out there, little, here you go. Here's some flat Earth stuff for you guys. And then you have to figure out why, and then you have to figure out what for, what it means, and why we're supposed to care about this. And but at the end of the day, we've pretty much shown, you and I and other people, we're not the only ones showing that it is in fact a planned movement, and then it has taken on its own meaning. It's taken on its own legs with people. And one of the good things is, a year ago I would have cursed all of the infighting going on, but in retrospect, I'm glad for all the infighting because it's prevented anyone from rising to the top and becoming a leader. And I was opposed to that from the very get-go because I've watched movements and studied them over, history, and seen leaderless movements and non-leaderless movements. And the leader movements always seem to get the leader taken out at some point when it becomes grassroots. So whoever thought they wanted to be the leader up until now should be really, really glad that they never got there, because that's pretty much asking for a bullet to the back of the head. I'm not sure that answers your question, but that probably answers somebody's question. And at this point, go ahead.
Yeah, that's the only difference that I've noticed, is that their explanation for gravity. But you've got flat earthers, you've got one camp saying gravity doesn't exist. Mark Sargent says it does. It's molecular gravity. So there isn't even a common consensus on that, is there?
Right. You got the electric universe people, right? Yeah.
And you've got those who say it's the ether pressing down. So,
and the torus.
Yeah. I mean, I'll tell you one thing. The most disturbing thing I saw since I was last on was a video by Jesse Spots, and it wasn't the content. Well, not what he was saying. And if you've ever watched that one, it was the one where he was having a pop at Mark Sargent for, taking his shirt off and having those two women posing around him. But if you listen to that video, the music.
Well, actually, I did. Out of about 500 videos that he's done, that's one that I did watch because it had the comment section of another video that I watched had a link to it. So I clicked on it and watched it because otherwise I couldn't care less what Jesse has to say about anything. But he has a lot to say about everything. So I did watch that.
Play it again. And listen to the music introducing and at the end. That music is in such a bad frequency. I had to turn it off. It was like destroying my head. It was it was like MK Ultra or something. It was, go check it out. That music.
Maybe you were programmed in an earlier point in your life, Lawrence, and.
If you've ever watched that film, did you ever watch that film with Michael Caine? My name is Michael Caine, and I'm your. He did some spy films in the -- and one was called The Ipcress File, and they had similar sort of music in that, which it's the music, where you've got 432 hertz, which is in tune with the body. You've got these other things like a lot of the heavy rock music bounces your heart out of sync.
Right.
And it can be quite disturbing. And that music Jesse Spots put out, that was so disturbing because I was doing something else while it was on. I had to go and turn the volume off because it was doing my head in.
Well, what I found interesting about that video is, and hi, Jesse, sorry to, burst your bubble, but you're not the first person who ever thought about the Breakfast Club and assigning character names, character roles to people in fake movements. So you're a little slow on the uptake there, but at least you figured it out sooner or later, because there for a while you were pretty far sucked into that whole crew, and everybody calls it the potato crew, but. Now all of a sudden, Jesse is, I'm all against Mark Sargent and everything he stands for and everything else, even though he had him on his speed dial on his phone or whatever, and knew the number by heart. But the whole idea is, obviously for those who are not in the know or insiders in the flat earth community, I guess it would be worth our while to preface what we're talking about, and that is that there was a couple of flat earth mixers. Was it last week? Just last week or before that? Anyway,
it's been on a couple of weeks.
One was hosted by Mark Sargent or, Sasha Cullen and that crew up in the Northeast. And then Patricia Steer had one in Texas, I think Houston area. And some antics went on at an after party at the one that Mark Sargent and et al. Attended up north, and there was some videotaping done. Apparently, it was all planned and set up ahead of time, but then it was like, was it leaked or wasn't it leaked? And, we're all supposed to figure it out, and who really cares? And people right now are saying, well, then why are you guys talking about it? Well, we're really not. We're talking about the flat earth happenings and community in general. So it did create quite an uproar in the flat earth community with some people, not everyone. Most people just couldn't care less. And it was just a publicity stunt. Apparently somebody's ratings are sort of hitting the skids. But regardless, some of the people in the Christian community were very upset because it put a black eye, they thought, on the integrity, seriousness of the flat earth effort to wake up people and bring people to understand what's going on in the flat earth movement. And so, I'm just tongue in cheek laughing at Jesse because Jesse hasn't, always has to have a video about everything that's going on. And, with his little icon up in the corner talking over what's happening and, as if he's a flat earth news reporter. And good for you, Jesse. But at the same time, what I find hilarious about it is you and I, and me specifically, I will have to chime in on this one. I called out Mark Sargent in April of last year as a gatekeeper, as some kind of a counterintelligence agent, as some kind of a shill. I have no idea what his role is, whether it's being paid or whether he's just trying to get his name at the top of the heap so that he can make some money on flat earth. I don't know. And more power to him. I couldn't care less, except I am on record as saying that if he ends up being some kind of news spokesperson for flat earth out of all of this, and he takes his make and model to the news stations or the news media, and that's what they regurgitate back out to the world, and most of us don't agree with it. Most of us, as far as I know, don't agree with his make and model, his little, Truman Show enclosed world thing. So anyway, it's been up and down with regards to this guy. And a lot of people credit him with waking them up to flat earth by watching his flat earth clues. He's happy to take as much credit for that as he possibly can, which is fine. But at the same time, I'm glad those people woke up, and I'm glad those people had something to watch. But I hope to God that they watched something else after that to dispel the disinformation that is included in that series of videos, because there's a whole lot of crap in there that should not be in there, as far as it's not just speculation. He states it as if it's fact. So I've been, after him about that for a year now. And, but aside from that, then they had to have a 3-hour powwow hangout to break down everything that happened. And Patricia had to berate Mark, and some of the other et al. People had to, put their 2 cents worth in. And for those who care about those people, those personas, well, I guess that's all important. I don't happen to care about any of the personas of Flat Earth, because it's the information that I'm after and the truth, and then what we end up ultimately doing with it that matters to me, and not the people. I mean, I've met a lot of great people in the Flat Earth community, and they're wonderful, and I've come to have some great friends like you, and wouldn't have met you otherwise. But at the same time, do I want to elect you Flat Earth president? No. Do I want you to be the spokesperson for Flat Earth? Well, I'd take you over, somebody like Mark Sargent or Eric Dubay, because you're pretty mainstream when it comes to, the way you represent Flat Earth. So, or non-mainstream, I mean. And so, that's my little dissertation about the whole thing. And, take that with a grain of salt, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, there's still people putting it out there that there's millions of flat earthers, and I did a bit of research into it myself. It was a few weeks back now, and rather than millions, I would say there was no more than 50,000 regular flat earthers. Because when you analyse the actual number of videos on there, there's not millions. There's a small fraction of that. You can actually, if you go on a daily on the daily feature for YouTube's on Flat Earth, the first figure that'll come up may say something like 6,000. But when you actually go to the end, if it's got 8 pages, you go to page 8, and it'll might say something like there's 100 videos, and of those, many of it are just re-uploads of the same stuff. And there's quite
okay. Well, I have to ask a question here, because then what are they constituting as a Flat Earth video? Because anybody who has Flat Earth in the title or in the tags, that should come up as a Flat Earth video. What happened to the millions?
There aren't millions. There's not millions on there. It shows up as millions, but there aren't millions. Because if you look at daily, I've looked at daily, weekly, and monthly, and looked at how many they actually are. I haven't got the figures down in front of me now, but it's a very small fraction of what YouTube tell you. You can do it yourself on weekly. So if you go on, type in flat Earth on YouTube, press the button, and then search daily, and it'll say at the top how many there is. Yeah. Then you can actually go through it. So you've got page 1, and there'll probably be about 7 or 8 pages, and that's all there is. So if there was 10 on each page, there'd be like 80 instead of whatever it is, so many thousands. That it's
okay, so that's how many came up that day?
No,
or posted that day?
I do it every day. So the figures, that the headline figure is a big line.
What I'm trying to understand that you're saying that's how many were uploaded in that day or in that week or as a total?
No, it would say how many have been uploaded in the last 24 hours.
Okay.
But when you go through and count the individual videos, there's only so many on a page, say 10 a page. Yeah, and then you've got how many pages they are. But when you get to, if you go right to the end, you go to the last one that was uploaded that day, the figure on the top, it drops to how many they actually really are, which is a small fraction of what they're saying there is. But what's happening is the likes of, a lot of the big names saying, oh, there's 6 million, whatever on here. But that, again, is overstated by a huge factor. If you look at how many new videos come out each day by new flat earthers, there isn't more than a handful, because most of the stuff coming out is the same people, who push. I mean, like Daniel Pratt puts something out every day, and
yeah,
there's lots of people putting stuff out every day.
I hear what you're saying, and I also understand that quite a few people who were putting out a whole lot of more videos have lessened back, because there doesn't seem to be quite as much to say about it until, we get more data, we get more evidence. I mean, how much more can you say? How many times can you repeat the same thing? The same, proofs, the same gravity or NASA or whatever your point of reference is. Myself included, I haven't put out a ton of videos. I only do these shows and have a couple of other videos that I've mirrored or re-uploaded of other people's. But it's interesting because if, for example, let's say one of, Dubé's videos, it might be 200,000, 300,000, 400,000 views on it.
Yeah, but
who's watching? Yeah. Who's watching that? You only count one view per person's IP address. So, who's watching all of those?
Well, when you break down the statistics on it, it'll tell you the length. So somebody might watch it for a minute, and that counts as viewing.
Oh, I get that. I understand that. I look at my own as far as the duration of time. I mean, most of our videos are 2 or 3 hours long, and I don't expect people to watch the whole thing each time. But they may click on it and watch it for a minute and go, nah, I don't want to invest 3 hours right now, and go away. And then forget to come back or whatever.
Yeah, but what about it? Because a lot of people get involved in discussions, shall I say, on these, in the comment section. If they keep coming in and out to pass comment, does that count as another view or not? Because I don't know.
No, it does not. Because every time you click on the video to respond to the comment, unless you're responding from within your Google account, or whatever. But if each time you go to the video to respond, as far as I know, that does not count as another view. Because if that did, some people would just go and watch their own video 30 times a day and click on it for a minute just to get their view count up. Besides that, there are a few that have admitted that they have bought view counts from, getting a Fiverr deal or something like that, where you can buy 500 views.
Well, how does that work? How can you buy? You mean buy views that don't exist?
Yeah, no, they click on they click them, but they only click them for long enough to count the view, and then they click off. It's almost robotic. Okay, like a Fiverr deal. Here's what happens. Okay, you remember what was that guy that was trolling everybody for a while? That had all those different Facebook accounts. Remember him?
Joseph Townley.
Tim Osman. Remember him?
Osman, yeah.
Okay. So somebody like Tim Osman, for example, he admits that he has 50 or 100 or 1,000 accounts, okay? Whether he actually has them or not, I have no way of knowing, but I know he's trolled the crap out of me in the past, and I've had to block a whole bunch of his accounts. So, and by the way, Tim, I can always tell it's you. So anyway, like, for example, a Fiverr deal, okay? You go on Fiverr.com. I think it's Fivver or something like that, and .com. And for $5 or $10, there's different values. You can buy views, and they'll guarantee you 250 or 500 or 1,000, however much you're willing to pay. That's how many fake accounts are on these sites like YouTube or Facebook or whatever. And so you can buy people to like your Facebook page. For example, you start a brand new community page. I can't stand to do it because most of these accounts are not even interested in whatever it is you're buying it for. Okay. Like, these people aren't interested in flat earth. So what's the point? It's only an ego trip to give yourself a higher view count or a higher subscriber number or likes on your page on Facebook. You can buy any of that. You can buy anything. So what do you think Hillary Clinton, what do you think she does and Obama did, and all of those people who have these huge Twitter accounts? And you can buy Twitter followers. You can buy anything.
So how does that work operationally then? They take your money and then they pay somebody just to go on it for 1 second. They have a whole list of videos to click on.
Yeah, you have to have a verified account, though. Okay, and like, for example, on Facebook, a verified account has to have somebody's phone number associated with it where they can call you back and verify your account and so on. So, but that's a whole hidden industry inside social media that most people have no clue about. And on top of that, how many accounts do you think government has to monitor and watch and troll and bugger everybody all the time? And so, one person, do you have bingo over in UK? The game called bingo? Okay. You know how you go to the bingo table, and if you're just okay, you can handle like 3 cards. If you're pretty good, you can handle like 6 or 7 cards. If you really know what you're doing, you can handle a dozen or more cards. And they're calling those numbers out so damn slow that,
Bingo in the UK, Laurie, it's a pastime for what we would call a numpty.
Exactly. I mean, it doesn't take
the brain dead would go and
right. Well, and old people over here, for the most part, they love bingo.
Here,
right.
Yeah.
So, anyway, the idea that I'm brought up bingo for was, if you're got half a wit, you can handle a dozen or so cards and keep the little marker going, right? If you're a government agent, you're handling 50 Facebook accounts or 50 YouTube accounts or maybe 100. I don't know what they're capable of. But they're sitting around on a computer logged in with one login to all of these accounts. And let's say they decide to attack flatearthconspiracy.com or Flat Earth Conspiracy YouTube channel. And so that one guy with all of his accounts just bombs the crap out of your comments and makes you look like a complete moron. with and just, trolls the hell out of you, and you're so busy trying to get rid of all their crap, and then of course, they come back with, oh, so you're one of those, comment deniers, whatever. Yeah, I am actually big time. I mean, all the comments on my channel are approved only, and I don't want to hear any garbage. I don't want to hear any crap. So, yeah, I'm a comment denier. Guilty.
Did you actually watch any of those mixes that Mark Sargent and Patricia Steer did?
Actually, I did not. I saw about a quarter, maybe a half. I don't even know how long the little, foo-foo video was in the hotel room, but it was pretty pathetic. Yeah, it was pretty pathetic. So, I mean, I wasn't going to waste a whole lot of my time on it. And, and I don't care. I mean, I don't care what those people do. And they didn't make any ruckus except inside the flat earth community. It's not like they're Kim Kardashian or Prince or somebody that does something, or Johnny Depp does something and the whole media world talks about it. I mean, these people are virtually nobodies except wannabe king and queen of flat earth. And so, so I didn't waste a lot of time on it, but I did watch a few minutes of the so-called 3-hour hangout after, where I think it was called Question Mark, that Patricia did and et al. And, I got the gist that Patricia was miffed, that she got some on her. That's sort of an inside joke in the U.S. Did you get any on you? And yeah, she got some on her. And whether or not she had anything to do with it or not, it's irrelevant, because who you associate with. I mean, she does a weekly show with him and has for quite some time, and has him on most of her hangouts. So they are buddy, and they're inextricably tied to one another now. So anything one does, the other one's going to get some on them. And so, yeah, she did. And so, Mark sits there with the cow eyes, I don't know, I'm sorry. Well, I'm not really sorry, any publicity is good publicity, and so on. Well, not necessarily, but that is something they say in the politics world when you're campaigning. And the old saying goes, it doesn't matter what they say about you as long as they spell your name right. Because people forget what they said, but they remember the name. And when it comes time to vote, then they, most voters aren't at the top of the food chain. So they're just going to go in there and vote for the favorite, just like at the racetrack. Well, we're going to put $5 across the board on the favorite.
Yeah, well, what I noticed that Mark Sargent's mixer was, I was interested in the door prizes that were being handed out.
Oh, really? What were they?
Oh, there was a frisbee that had got the AE map on. There was a map that had got the AE map on. There were T-shirts that had got the AE map on. They'd got a cake. Guess what that had got on it?
Oh, it's got the AE map on it. I bet
you got it, Laurie. Yeah. In fact,
God, smart.
All the prizes had the AE map on. So,
Well, he's made no bones about he's sticking with the AE map and, the circle and the dome and the whole thing. He has to. He's all in on that. I mean, his whole website and clues and everything are all about the dome, the Truman Show dome, and everything else. He's stuck. When and if the time comes that he gives up on the AE map, you can kiss his ass goodbye, because he what credibility will he have left unless he grovels and says, "I'm so sorry, I waited way too long to do the actual research into my own philosophy of flat Earth, and I didn't do the work. I just repeated what I was told to repeat," or whatever.
Okay. So Here's a question for you.
All right.
Who's the other Mr. Nice Guy in Flat Earth?
The other Mr. Nice Guy.
Yeah.
Gosh, I don't know.
Bob on Globebusters. Now,
Jeranism? Oh, no, Bob.
Bob.
Okay.
Anyway, so I've listened to a few.
Okay, I'd give you that. He's kind of a Mr. Nice Guy. Okay.
He sort of tries to play
What's
a
his
straight.
last name? Bob?
No, Xanadu 60 or something is his name, or Xanadu something. Anyway, I was listening to his show, and Bob's supposed to be the mathematician, the intellectual. He thinks he's a clever sort of guy. He makes, tells everybody that he used to be a pilot and all this sort of stuff. But on a recent show, he said the Gleason map, all it needs is a few tweaks and we can get it to work. Well, if you're listening, Bob, I'm still waiting to hear what those tweaks are to make Australia in the right place in relation to the rest of the world. And I can tell you, mate, it ain't going to fucking happen. Look what happened to Tiger Dan. He had a meltdown over it.
Oh, my. Bob still
otherwise.
says that? Bob still says that Gleason is workable?
Oh, yeah. Of course
it's a freaking timepiece. It's not even a map. It's an azimuthal equidistant map. We all know by now, or should know by now, that all AE maps is a map with a choose your center location, and everything is flattened out from there. The center location can be the North Pole, the South Pole, or it can be, Peoria. It doesn't make any difference. And the only reason why everybody likes it is because it's ingrained now in the psyche in the subconsciousness of everybody in the flat earth, because that's what they saw. It was just another form of indoctrination. It's like, get them while they're hot, kids. Come on out of thinking that the world is a spinning ball and come on over here and realize it's a circle with a, dome over the top of it. And easy breezy, no problem. Anybody can learn to be a flat earther in 24 hours or less. All you got to do is accept our model and our map. And
I know. And then, have you heard of Mr. Flat Earth Taxi? Now, he went on the streets talking to people about the flat earth, and he's a genuine nice sort of guy, but he is relatively new to it. But he goes out and he's telling everybody about the ice wall, Laurie. Now, we all know that fundamental part of flat Earth. We can't forget this ice wall, because everybody knows there's an ice wall all around the Earth.
Well, the only reason why there's an ice wall now, why is there an ice wall? Why did we have to have?
To hold all the water in.
Well, of course, you got to hold all the water on the flat circle.
Well,
the ice wall, but it also answers the question, boom, boom, boom. Thank you, ma'am. What happens when you go to the edge? Okay, that's what everybody always asks. This first question out of anybody Glober's mouth to a flat earther: where's the edge? Oh, well, there is no edge. It's a 2-mile high ice wall all the way around. Okay, and where are you going to go from there? That's it. You just took care of the problem. Okay, there's no edge. There's an ice wall. And problem is that nobody, there might be an ice wall here and there might be an ice wall over there, but we're talking about an ice wall, a mile or less or more high all the way around the perimeter, okay, of this circle. And yet people are completely all in on that one until you ask them, who's gone around this ice wall? Well, Captain Cook or somebody, they just remember the myth. It's almost like the Mandela effect. Okay. They know that somebody did it, and they sailed around this ice wall, and it took them like forever, 6 months or a year or something.
300 years ago, yeah. Who's done it recently? Nobody. But if Captain Cook could do it in the 1700s, then somebody should be able to do it today, shouldn't they?
But call me crazy because I think that there might be a time loop with the sun goes across.
They'll get shot out of the water by the Antarctic protection force all around the 90,000 miles, whatever it is, all the way around it.
Yeah. What did you figure out that would have to be? Was it 90, almost 80 something thousand?
80,000 miles. Well, it's 2 pi r, so it's 2 pi times the radius. So it's whatever that figure is, something like 6 times the radius, whatever that works out. It's 2 pi times the radius.
Right. Well, it's a long way. It's more than
60,000 anyway. It's more like it's nearer 90 than 60 if it was real,
Right. And then we have to figure out, how does the sun even remotely come close to warming any of that edge? Okay. I mean, I know it's cold in South Africa, but I mean, there's times when it's not freezing cold, I mean, again, we can rehash all the day long, but there's no proven ice wall, and there could be one. Okay. There could be an ice wall somewhere 2 miles high, but until I see it or until someone shows it to me, there's no proof, and I can't repeat something that's got no proof. I can prove certain things about flat Earth, as well as anybody can, and I can prove that we're not spinning, and I can prove we're not on a ball. But I can't prove an ice wall. I can't prove, a Truman Show dome. So I'm not going to say it, if I can't prove it. So,
you saw that thing with Neil deGrasse Tyson when he was on that comedy show, and he dropped his microphone to emphasize gravity. And then Obama did exactly the same thing about a week ago.
Yes.
It gets you thinking that this is really big, in that you've got the president. This is about the 5th or the 6th time that he's done. I mean, that's obviously an insider clue. Most of the people watching that wouldn't have a clue that dropping the microphone was related to the flat Earth. He was sending a coded message to flat Earthers saying, well,
right.
You're not going anywhere.
He did that.
He's laughing at us, isn't he?
Right.
Obama.
He did that, and then he dropped the mic. Obama out. Right.
Yeah.
Well, I'm saying that for those who are listening to this on a podcast, he put his 2 fingers over his lips in the motion, the shushing motion, and then he dropped the mic straight down, just like Neil deGrasse Tyson did, and about flat Earth, and Tyson did it as a comedy routine about B.O.B. coming out and saying the Earth was flat in a rap song. And
here's the question then, Laurie. Why does Obama keep bringing it up and making references to it? What is the agenda behind
that? Once you get past a certain saturation point of knowing where the red line is that won't be crossed, okay, you can mock all you want, M-O-C-K, mock, and that's what he's doing. And I've seen documentaries about Obama's speechwriters and how much effort and time and rewrites and meetings go into every single Obama speech. He never utters a word that isn't planned and pre-planned. And so the what was it, the media awards or whatever that heck that was that he goes to every year, it was like a roast. And I have to admit, the guy's probably a better comedian than he is a president, for sure. And he does have a little bit of an edge with regards to delivery and timing, as far as being comedic. He also has mucho respect from whoever the audience is. So they're going to laugh like a laugh track at every perfect opportunity that they're supposed to. I mean, there's probably someone up on the podium to the side going, clap now. So, but he keeps making reference to flat Earth. We don't have time for meeting a flat Earth society, and blah blah blah. If you were born back, if you lived back in the day of Columbus, blah blah blah, and on and on and on. Now, the effort to make those remarks does not go unnoticed by the flat Earth community, flat Earth believers. To those out there in La La Land who are clueless about what is even going on about globe versus flat, they just hear it as a jibe at stupid flat Earth people that believe in flat Earth, and that it's classic that, well, nowadays if you believe the Earth is flat, you're either retarded, uneducated, or just being obstinate, being weird on purpose. So
what I noticed was, because prior to that he made another comment saying something about there's plenty of science to back it up, the Earth being round, which is exactly the same as deGrasse Tyson. So whatever deGrasse Tyson says, Obama seems to be following up. So it'll be interesting to watch out what deGrasse Tyson comes up with next. And
right, and then see if Obama mimics it as well. Yeah. Well, here's the deal on that.
Twice he's done it.
Yeah. Well, here's the deal on that. You've got those public relations firms who are both telling both Obama and deGrasse Tyson et al., the media, what are the catchwords. They have their focus groups, and they put out their words and their phrases, and they see what catches, and they see what makes people go or what makes people make a frowny face or whatever. And so they test sample every market kind of group of people, and they know what effect the words are going to have. And they've known this for decades and decades. I mean, it's the Edward Bernays School of Public Relations, otherwise known as propaganda. So with people like, Obama and Tyson, they're sort of designated, obviously, as the first line spokespeopeople to put out those catchphrases. And then, just like watching any one of those TV blooper shows or whatever, where they show, all these different news stations say that repeat the same thing. What's the guy's name that does the nighttime show that does that all the time? You people are listening would know it. So anyway, the whole idea is they get it started, and then repeat after me, all the other people down the line repeat the same catchphrases, and then pretty soon everybody says the same thing. So
why do you think they're doing it then? That is the question.
Because
what is the purpose of Obama putting flat Earth in his speeches and making flat Earth gestures? What is the aim of doing it? What do they hope to achieve from doing it?
Well, there's an end game. There's always an end game. And there's obviously an end game, because if they, there's an if then. If they created this movement, and they did, they at least got it started, kicked it off. Even Jesse says so now. Okay, so they have to have a goal, or they wouldn't do it. And so the goal is, at some point, they're either A, going to roll out that the Earth is flat and that it's somebody's fault, and because it's just like the whole idea with vaccines, okay? One day they'll admit that vaccines are bad for people, and especially bad for babies. But until then, they won't do it until they've got all their shit together on who's going to get the blame and how they're going to spin it out, because otherwise they're culpable for having maybe given a whole bunch of babies, ADD or autism or killed them, you know. It's the same thing with fluoride in the water. You and I've talked about that before. They've already done enough research now, finally. I mean, fluoride started being put in the water, I believe, in like 1945 or 1950 in the US. And all these years, all the dentists have said, you know, oh, no, it's good for your teeth. Oh, no, it's good for your teeth. Well, what about all the other parts of your body? You know, do we really have to drink it and have it come back out through our teeth in order for us to get a fluoride treatment? Can't this just be done topically if it's so wonderful? Or can't we just use toothpaste? And, you know, why do we have to drink it? And so now there's, you know, dentists and all kinds of people coming out and saying fluoride's bad. I mean, it's rat poison, for crying out loud. So nobody's going to be culpable. They don't want to be the one that's culpable. So you've got, 45 to 60, 70 years of dentists telling people it's good for you. And now all of a sudden, you know, they're going to say it's not, it's bad. So it's the same thing with flat earth. They can't just all of a sudden come out and say, okay, it's flat and we've been lying to you guys all this time, because there's going to be hell to pay. People are going to ask, who knew and when did you know and why did you lie? But at the same time, maybe they're going to come up with some, you know, fantastical show of proving that the earth is flat or round, and make all the flat earthers look like complete crazy people. And it's interesting because the flat earthers are some of the most intelligent people I know, insofar as they are willing to do the research. I know more about the earth now after being a flat earther for a year than I knew going in. I mean, I literally know so much more about not only history, but geography and weather and oceans, and I mean, how clouds are made and where lightning comes from, and I mean, all of it. So why would they do it? They got a plan, and there's no getting around that. So now we just have to figure out what's the plan. Okay, maybe we'll be able to do that. Maybe we won't. I think the plan is that they're going to do some other bigger deception, like aliens or something. But
yeah, well, it's funny you should talk about fluoride, because the videos have been taken down now, but I had some videos up and it was called The Official Government Poisoners. And I used to go around the country talking about the water supply and fluoridation. Now in the UK, I don't know, there's about 1 million people who receive fluoridated water in the Midlands and in the Northeast. And when I was working in Birmingham, which is right in the heart of the UK, you notice the people there, they're probably not the brightest people that you'll ever likely to meet, because they've been force-fed fluoride from birth. And you can actually notice it with some people, because when they smile, they've got these white flecks on their teeth, which is called fluorosis.
Right.
And you get fluorosis when your bones are totally overloaded with fluoride, and your teeth become the windows to your bones. And then you look at things like hip fractures and things like that, and the incidence of them and other chronic conditions. And in these areas where it's fluoridated, they have higher incidences of them. I think that one of the highest places in the United States for fluoride is South Carolina. And it's funny that there was that Miss World competition or Miss United States competition, and they got that Miss South Carolina on to talk about maps. And it's been well played millions of times, but she wasn't the brightest girl you'd ever likely to meet, you know. And they took the piss out of her, and she went on a few talk shows afterwards. But that's the sad thing, that people are, you know, in your country, you've got nearly, I think it's 66% of the United States are getting fluoridated water.
Right.
And you can do something about it. You can distill water, which is expensive, or you can get a reverse osmosis filter, but you've still got to bathe in it and shower in it. And the fluoride gets absorbed through the skin. So if you take a long hot shower, you're absorbing fluoride. You can buy whole of house filtration systems that take the fluoride out. But you're talking, I don't know, probably at least $3,000 for something, and it uses up a huge amount of water because it channels off water to actually get the clean water out, and your water bill would probably quadruple to have that sort of system. So it's beyond the pocket of most people. So, we're on a, particularly in your country and Australia, it's funny, Australia's got the same percentage as you as fluoridated water. The dumbing down is so bad because I think fluoride probably knocks 10 or 20 points off your IQ. People just
well, you mentioned that about the bones, and interestingly enough, in the United States, what is that? Bone loss disease.
Bone density, yeah.
Everybody
osteoporosis,
Osteoporosis. At a certain age, you're supposed to get a bone density test. And so many people are on, medication and supplements for their bones because they're so brittle. It's the biggest fear of old people in this. I mean, they don't walk around fearing heart attacks or cancer anymore. They fear falling and breaking a hip and dying in the hospital. Yeah. And so, brittle bone disease is bad. It's awful. I mean, my mom fell a couple months ago. She was asleep in her recliner and late at night, 10 o'clock or something. And she got up to go to bed and she had her feet, covered with a blanket. My mom's pretty old, and she had her feet covered with a blanket and she was sleepy, and she pulled the recliner down and she went to get up and got her feet tangled up in the blanket and fell down and couldn't get up. The classic, joke about old people. I've fallen and I can't get up. And she broke her shoulder. Just that easy, on carpet in the house. And so that's no good. And, all the older people here, before you know it, their necks they can't even look up anymore. Their head's all bent down and they got that scoliosis or lordosis or whatever it's called, and humpback disease. And, what I find amazing is there's enough evidence at this point to just say, okay, now the old story about putting fluoride in the water was for people who couldn't afford dental care, the poor. They started putting fluoride in the water in the poor neighborhoods, in the poor cities that had a lot of poor people, to help fight tooth decay and cavities. And for the amount of money that it takes to put this fluoride in the water, you could give toothpaste with fluoride to every person, every household in your city. And keep them in fluoride toothpaste if you really were that concerned about their dental health. And otherwise, they're medicating people because it's considered a medication, and it's forced medication. It's come to the top of the surface of the. Used to be for years it was a conspiracy theory thing, but now. Along with GMOs and other things, people are aware that it is. But you literally have to go hound your city council to death to get them. And then they're just going to bring in some dentist guy or somebody from the American Dental Association, and they're going to have their counter argument. And it all sounds really good on paper. So, but it definitely plays a role, in my opinion, as to the intelligence level of or thinking skills. Let me just say, I don't know that it actually would lower your IQ, but it definitely hampers your critical thinking skills. Makes you lethargic enough not to question everything like you should be doing. All of you, everyone, everybody.
And it's like, sometimes you routinely overhear people's conversations, and these hip replacements and getting new knees is quite routine now, and you're talking about tens, hundreds of thousands of people having your joints are supposed to last a lifetime. They're not supposed to, crumble when you're 65 years old or whatever. Some people are getting new knees in their 50s. I mean, you can understand.
Well, you know what? It's a whole lot easier to get a new set of teeth than it is to get new knees, right? So it's kind of like let's one outweigh the other here. Do we have broken hips and broken bones and rotten knees, or do we have rotted teeth? Which one's more important?
Well, the crazy thing about fluoride, Laurie, is that what that fluoride actually does, it doesn't protect your teeth. It damages your teeth.
Right.
And when you've got an overload of fluoride for somebody who's young, it disrupts the formation of the enamel, which is why you get these white flecks.
Right.
And it's endemic. And of course, it's a lot of business for dentists because they have to have restorative work to, people who want nice looking teeth.
Oh, I know lots of people who have those white flecks, and they were told by their dentists that it was, because they got too much fluoride. They're told that it's because they got too much fluoride prior to the development of their adult teeth. When they were inside their skull still, right?
Yeah, I know. And I mean, I'm known to go into a pharmacy. I don't know what you call it, a chemist shop.
Pharmacy.
I'll go in and I'll say, yes, I'd like some toothpaste, please. And I'd like some without rat poison. Can you offer me one? And they go through all the brands. What about this one? No, that's sodium monofluorophosphate.
There's only one in the U.S. There's only one that I have found, and it's called Tom's. And it's the only one you can buy with no fluoride.
Well, other
than making your own, but most people they were raised on a tube of toothpaste. Nobody wants to go through the hassle of making their own toothpaste. It seems pretty ridiculous that you have to go to a special store or order it online to get toothpaste without fluoride. I've only found one store in my whole town, and it's a Target, that carries Tom's toothpaste without fluoride. Lots of other Whole Foods and other places, which are Whole Foods is it's an upper level quality, mostly organic, grocery store. But the only place that I can find Tom's without fluoride is at one of those Target stores, which is like a Walmart.
Yeah,
and it's pretty pathetic.
You can make your own toothpaste. I make my own.
Well, I did buy, and that's what I did. I bought the ingredients to make my own, and unfortunately, I don't love coconut oil all that much, which a lot of people flavor theirs with that. But I bought some peppermint oil.
You just melt down some coconut oil, add some bicarbonate of soda or bicarbonate of potassium. Potassium's actually better because we get too much sodium, and add some mint essential oil, peppermint or spearmint, and mix it all together, and then you just dip your brush in it, and it's far better for you. And if you swallow that, it does you good because
the ingredients are actually good for you.
The bicarbonate's alkaline, so that's good for you, and the coconut oil is good for you, and the mint essential oil is pretty good for you.
So the idea with regards to what happened, did I talk over you? Go ahead.
No. We're just talking about fluoride.
Okay. So enough about fluoride. If you don't already know about it, there is a really good video on YouTube called an Inconvenient Tooth. It's a name spoof on An Inconvenient Truth, which is about global warming, Al Gore bullshit. But this is called An Inconvenient Tooth, and it is an expose documentary about fluoride and fluoridated water and exposing the rat poison for what it really is. So
there's another good video. It's called The Fluoride Deception by Christopher Bryson, who used to work for the BBC. That's a good one because it goes into the history of it and tells you how it all came about in the first place.
Right.
Where they were dumping all the fluoride in in the aluminium industry, it was all being pumped into the rivers, and what was happening was that all the cows and the sheep, the local livestock, were all dropping dead. So they had to do something with it. So they made
had
it
to
up.
put it in the water so that humans can drink it.
So they have to put it in the water. It's too toxic. It's too toxic to pump out into the water, but it's okay to drink.
Absolutely. Do you know that it's true that if you did a spill of the fluoride, potassium fluoride, that it comes off of both the aluminum production industry and the phosphate, which I'm surrounded by phosphate plants here in Florida. But if you spilled that on the ground, you would have to do a toxic waste cleanup.
And if you live in the United States, I've looked into buying. I never buy wine from California now because they use fluoride-based pesticides and stuff to spray the grapevines. So I wouldn't.
I mean, you're damned if you do, and you're damned if you don't. You know that, right?
Yeah, I know.
So the best thing to do is just try, and get your mind around not being so super frustrated about it all. I mean, there's just add it to all the other things that we're constantly frustrated about. I mean, a couple days ago, I was working. I'm an artist and paint in people's homes, doing fancy painting and stuff. And so I was at a client's house doing some sort of honeydew jobs for her, actually, because she didn't have anybody to help her. And she was playing the TV in the background. Now, I don't watch TV. I mean, I have a TV and I watch maybe some Netflix movies and I have it set up to where I can watch YouTube videos on it and so on. But anyway, so the TV is playing in the background. And at first she had the Price is Right game show on. And I said, I'm sorry, would you mind changing that? Because that's sort of distracting me and making me feel edgy hearing that. And she said, well, I can turn it off. I said, no, you do whatever you normally do. It's just that game show's annoying. So she goes and changes it to some news channel. Oh my God. The Price is Right. I should have kept my mouth shut, because for the next 4 hours, I heard all afternoon about politics, Trump, Hillary, Trump, Hillary, Trump, Hillary. And I thought, oh my God. I mean, it's like the beginning of May and we don't have an election until November. And we already know who it's going to be. And why are we doing that? Why do we have to do this? I mean, who's listening to that? And I'm thinking, do people actually listen to this stuff all day long? And why? And do people actually still vote and do this, participate in this slavery, forced, I don't even know what you call it anymore. And so when I hear people say to me, why are you so concerned about flat Earth? You spend all this time and all this energy, researching and talking about flat Earth when there's all these other important things going on in the world. Okay. And I think, are you kidding me? There's important things going on in the world right now. And all this news program has to talk about for 4 freaking hours is Trump and Hillary. No other news about anywhere, anything. No, nothing about wars, nothing about fluoride, nothing but this election. And it's only May. And so how dare anyone say to me about where I spend my time and my energy and what I focus on and what I listen to and what I pay attention to? I know the world's falling apart. I know crap is crumbling down around my ears. I understand there's wars and pestilence and people starving to death and people robbing each other and killing each other and all kinds of horrible crap. And why do I focus on flat Earth? Because there's no reason to focus on any of those other things anymore because I know everything there is to know about them. I've already figured it out. If you haven't figured it out, then you need to do that before you focus your attention on flat Earth, because flat Earth is the biggest lie that I know of in the history of Earth. It is being held back from billions of people, okay? I can't think of any one other impact lie that affects every single person on Earth more than flat Earth does, okay? What difference would it make if flat Earth was suddenly come to the forefront and everybody knew that the Earth was flat? What difference would it make? I hear that day after day after day. Well, I'll tell you what difference it makes. If you found out that the Earth is flat and you didn't do anything about it and it didn't change the way you felt about anything, then kiss my ass. That's all I've got to say about that. Because the whole world changes when the shape of the Earth changes. Big Bang's gone, evolution's gone, creator's back, sun's not the center of the universe. All the history books are wrong, all the science books are wrong, all the math books are wrong. Einstein was wrong. Everybody's wrong. Everything is wrong. What do you do then? Does that make utter chaos everywhere? Absolutely. Bring it. Bring utter chaos. Because maybe then they'll forget to put fluoride in the water, and maybe then they'll forget to collect on your mortgage payment, and maybe then you'll have an opportunity to get to know where you live, what it's about, why you're here, and what's up with every life, the universe, and everything.
Yeah, right? Well, that's where I see the problem, Laurie, is that if you want to educate people, then it's probably going to take several generations. And one of the steps that we need to take is to stop the dumbing down chemicals and food and everything else, because if we don't, the average the average IQ in the United States is similar to the United Kingdom. It's similar worldwide, but it's less than 100. Now, somebody with an IQ of 100 is pretty dim, and that's the average. A lot of people below 100. So these people are never going to figure it out, and they are the majority. So this is going to be a very difficult ride to actually get the whole world to know what's going on, and for them actually to give a damn about it. Because
there you go. And then the only way they're ever going to figure it out is it has to be given out in such a simple format, laid out in such a simple form that they will be able to wrap their mind around it pretty easily, which is why I understand, that the best videos, the most watched videos are the ones that just like point A, point B, point C, blah, 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 da, 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 and there you go, boom, okay, the Earth is flat. But woven in all of those videos is disinformation by the boatload, okay? And people will say, well, why do you care? You can't have it both ways. You can't have, correct information and keep it simple. Why the hell not? I know how to say it simply. I don't add anything that doesn't need to be added in there. When someone asks me, if I say something to somebody, let's say I'm at a cocktail party, okay? I'm the kind of person who'll say, hey, have you heard about the flat Earth? Movement or theory or any of that? To somebody I've never seen before in my life, and be prepared for them to respond with either A, no, I haven't heard anything about it, which is pretty rare. That doesn't happen very often. Most people have heard something about it now that Obama's dropping mics and shit. And so, but if they say, oh, that's just crazy. You believe that? Well, I have to be prepared, if I'm going to bring it up, to defend it, okay? And to debate it and to share it with intelligence to somebody, okay? And I can't do that with a straight face by saying things like, Earth's a round disk and it sits on the back of a turtle, and the sun and moon go around in a circle, and whatever, and there's a little Truman Show dome over the top of it. I mean, I would be the laughing stock then, okay? And so I have to be prepared to sound more intelligent than they expect me to be when I utter the words flat earth, because they've already been told those flat earthers are stupid, ignorant, might as well be goat herders from, the south of Greece or something. Sorry for you Greeks. And so I have to be prepared to give them good information that makes sense. So the way I go about it is I debunk the globe. I don't get into the theory of how the flat earth works until they ask me. I tell them we don't live on a spinning ball. We're not flying through space. We're not rotating around the sun, blah, blah, blah. That's where I go, okay? I don't go with immediately, what is the theory of flat earth? Do you?
When I talk to people out on the streets about it, in shops and things like that, but when I'm at the checkout, I just talk to them about stuff like that. But thinking about it, practically, let's say, what's the channels for somebody actually becoming a flat earther or finding out about it? And the chances are, most people have Facebook. They'll see something pop on their Facebook page, and they'll decide to start looking into it a bit deeper. So they go on YouTube. And when they go into YouTube, they all get signed up for the false model from, the model from Mark Sargent and Jeranism and the Morgile and
Eric
DeBay and Flat Water and Celebrate Truth and all these people who are actively pushing the false model. And of course, then they go and tell other people about it and perpetrate the false model, which is what I see the problem is, because if it wasn't important to them, then why are they doing it? Why
do you think they're pushing the false model?
Because I think it's probably got something to do with the alien agenda, because they've been pushing that. Even Reagan was talking about it, say, and Bill Clinton, there's clips of them, mentioning aliens. So they're trying to make aliens more sociably acceptable and possible.
So the aliens part, is that for the purpose of saying the aliens created us? Or because how are you going to put together a dome, enclosed world like Mark Sargent calls it, and then introduce aliens? Because how are they getting through the dome? Oh, we got portals for the dome for them to get through. Okay.
How come we haven't found them? Well, maybe we have, but they're just there,
So is that how they're escaping to get out to the moon? Come on. I mean, you can't have it both ways. You can't have a penetrable dome and have and have you can't have an impenetrable dome and have a space program. Okay. So you can't have an impenetrable dome and have aliens visiting us from other planets unless they have a way to beam through the dome, Scotty.
Well, they reckon the aliens travel in a different dimension. So we're in 3 dimensions and they go through the fourth.
Oh, okay. So we can go with the 3-dimension or 4th dimension, but we can't have a portal or a wormhole or whatever. You see what I'm saying? That's okay. See, that's where that's where I start to get all pissed off, because you tell me what I can and can't believe or can't think of and dream up, but yet it's okay for you to come up with, domes because of sun gods or dogs or whatever they're called.
Yeah,
rainbows.
They mentioned CERN, CERNs to get through the portals. It's okay for that, but it's not okay for the Earth to have natural portals.
Well, if you can get through the portal, then how come the water that's supposed to be above the firmament doesn't come pouring in? Or is that, is that like a heart valve that only goes one way, but not?
I don't know.
So
let me ask you a question. Like, we saw Mark Sargent in his hotel fiasco, so to speak.
Oh, boy. You had to bring that up again.
Yeah, well, people are interested in it, but maybe we can sort of analyze it a bit further.
Okay.
because Mark Sargent's already done things to make people dislike him more. He started off as the nice guy, and then he's brought out, he started deliberately doing the Masonic hand signals and stuff like that. Then he tells us his grandparents and whatever, there's a family history of Masons in his family. Then he does the black and white checkerboard with the bad music at the start of his Strange World show. And then he goes and does this deliberate thing to wind up the Christians. Do you think he's trying to divide the flat earth into further factions? Do you think he's trying to reduce his own popularity? Do you think he's trying to boost the ratings? Where's he going with this? Because it's a full-time job for him, as it is for Patricia Steer, and she pleads out all innocence. And why is Patricia Steer putting out these videos, putting all her life story on a picture board on a YouTube? I mean, I would never do that, because if you know that you've got nothing to hide, then you don't bother trying to defend yourself, because you've got nothing to hide. So where are they trying to take this? Where do you think?
Well, I don't know, and all of those are really good questions. And, I haven't spent a lot of time thinking about it, because I just don't care that much about these guys. But if I were Jesse Spots, okay, sorry, I just had to say that. If I were a person who wanted to make my name about something big, so that later on I could be thought of in history books as one of the people instrumental or influential or whatever in the flat earth movement, I mean, maybe I would go through some of these antics. I don't know. But I've watched other people's ratings go up and down and up and down. And I've been able to sort of determine, based on what they're doing, which way their ratings are going to go. And I've been pretty accurate so far. And so I do believe that ratings have something to do with it, because if you're monetizing your YouTube, which they are, and they've said they are, or if you're looking for an end game contract to do a reality TV show or something like that, or, a paid radio show or TV show, obviously ratings mean everything. And Mark and Patricia both went pretty viral pretty fast from within. Outside of the community, really nobody knows anything about him and couldn't care less. But inside, they're both top name notables. So, but Mark has done this seesaw thing back and forth quite a few times. And so I definitely think that he has an agenda. And I think the agenda is just that. It's about popularity. I think Mark is naturally sort of a nerd and wasn't Mr. Popularity in high school. And Patricia, on the other hand, I don't know. I mean, why she would do that whole again. I mean, I've seen the pictures of the family, and how many times and how many ways can you remake that same movie? I mean, it's like the Patricia Steer movie remade 3 different ways already. And, it's important to her. She says she wants to be a personality in the flat earth to help promote flat earthers, other video makers, so on and so forth. But at the same time, nobody can deny that she's about herself. I mean, she's promoting herself, or otherwise she wouldn't be putting out so much effort. So between either trying to make a living off of it or boost their income, or they just straight up are some kind of, paid agency people. And most people already believe that Sasha is. And Sasha came in, people thought that pretty quickly. I mean, she made a big splash when she came in with her video about, using mathematics and sounding like a smart, silly girl. And people couldn't determine whether she was really smart or whether she was acting. And, I don't understand that in and of itself. I'm just me. You're just you. We're just being our own personality doing these shows. We're doing it for the right reasons, I feel. We're trying to guide new people with information. We're not trying to tell them what they should or shouldn't believe in, other than maybe that stupid AE map. I would have to say I've been a pretty strong guiding light against that. Like, get that out of here. And but if you laid all the cards out on the table and went back through the history over the last year or so with both of them, it seems quite evident to me that it's a production, it's a script, it's a reality TV show. It's like they're filming their Flat Earth reality TV show right before our eyes in real time.
And do you think that when Jesse Spots put his video out, do you think he already knew all about it beforehand and that was all part of the plan? Well,
I also look at this. I knew Jesse. Jesse and I were friends on Facebook before, we had a falling out. We had a falling out because he tried to pretty kind of much, weirdly blackmail me into saying, I'm going to tell people what you've said to me in the inbox of our conversations or whatever. I couldn't have cared less. But at the same time, once you sort of threaten me with that, we can't be friends. And so Jesse seems like a pretty sharp guy. He wants to be thought of as being very clever and very, very forward thinking and very ahead of everyone. I thought of it first, breaking kind of Jesse. And Mr. Analyst of everything. It's like, I don't even know why he thinks he needs to play that role, but maybe that's the role he was given. I mean, he is an actor. He is a comedian. I haven't seen anything really very comedic from him for quite some time, if ever. But the whole Breakfast Club thing and the piece of paper torn off and the marker pens and everything else. We're talking, by the way, anybody listening to this on a podcast that does not know the characters, we're talking about Jesse Spots YouTube. And he's also Jesse Spots on Facebook. And he's also Montel Laserby, if he still has that account open on Facebook, which is how I met him as Montel Laserby. I didn't even know Jesse was Jesse until I had him on a hangout way long time ago. So it was righteous indignation, I guess you would call it, the way he was talking about, Mark really fooled him. He didn't really have that much to say about Patricia. It's like, maybe he doesn't like beating up on girls or something, but it was okay that Mark punked him, but it didn't matter that Patricia kind of punked him too, because, she had him on her show several times. It was almost like he was her handler or something there for a while. It was weird. I mean, it was like he would be there on the show and he would maybe have something to say, but maybe not. And he would pop in and then be gone. I gotta go. Like, I got big stuff to do or something. And then he would just get off. And I don't know. I don't know what's up with any of these characters. But that is what they are, in my opinion. They're characters. They're not, yes, they're real people. I think Patricia, those are really pictures of her and her parents and her, her brother and sister or whatever. I think that's her childhood. That's her. And her dad had a radio station and everything else. I never had any question that whatever she said about her background was true. Why is she so insistent upon that? I mean, I'm telling you right now, I'm not posting my picture when I was a little girl and me and my brother and my mom and dad and so on, because it's nobody's business and it doesn't matter with what's coming out of my mouth right now. If you need credibility, listen to what I'm saying. It doesn't matter what I thought when I was 20 or 30 or 40 or 50, whatever. So
your birthday's coming up, Laurie. Heading for the big one.
Really sucks too. And, but that's okay, because, I'm still here. So the at the end of the day, I used to get pissed off. I've watched Star Gods, Richard Vizzuti get pissed. I'm just pissed off. And I've watched Daniel Pratt and other people. I mean, I saw videos this week from people like ODD TV. It's called Flat Earth Circus. He came out against all of them. Jonathan, the sidekick of, and forgive me, I don't know his last name, but the guy that was a sidekick to Mark Sargent for all of last year, Jonathan.
Why did he fall out with Mark Sargent? What happened there?
He was done. He said something about Sasha, and I watched a part of a video where he lost me, pretty quick, but because he started talking about other things. But he said something about Sasha to Mark, and Mark got offended, and they were done. And so now he's on the campaign trail bashing on Mark now. And he did a video with that Stephen Christ concaver guy, and they were bashing on Mark together. I'm sure Stephen was joyful to have someone to commiserate his disdain for Mark with. So, but what freaking difference does it make what any of these people are doing or saying, other than they're making Flat Earth look like a circus and a drama, bunch of drama people? And, am I contributing? Are you contributing to that by talking about it? No, I don't think so, because we're not the ones actually doing that weird stuff. And, most people, unless they're trying to get attention, they're pretty discreet. They don't, film some girl straddling some guy without a shirt on in a hotel room and try to make it like, woohoo, we're going to get caught, whatever. They don't do that stuff unless they're trying to get attention. And that's what it's all about. I mean, maybe Mark didn't get enough attention when he was a child. I don't know.
Where do you think Lord Stephen Christ fits into all of this? Because he was putting stuff out for a good few years before all this kicked off. Do you think he's part of the show? Is he playing a role, or do you think he's genuine?
Here's the thing. It took, just like you or me or anyone, it takes a while when you learn about something new, like Flat Earth, for example, to be confident, to learn enough about it, to get up to speed, to be able to have a repartee with someone, or if someone asks you a question, you can actually answer it with some kind of wisdom and logic and using big words. And you don't sound like Donald Trump, with 2-word sentences. And so it takes a while to get there. Now, Mark Sargent came out of the gate with that confidence, that air of, knowingness, superiority. And, Patricia started doing her show right after I started doing Hangouts way back last summer. She started doing her show, and then suddenly, we can't be friends anymore. And, I said something about something she said, and she blocked me, and, it became all of this high school drama. And ever since then, I just have, I'll make a comment. Somebody asks me a question about this group of people. But for the most part, I truly believe that most people who are investigating and researching and becoming a part of the flat earth community are not interested in that. The people who are interested in that are people who sort of came out of the follower culture and they broke free of the mass media follower culture USA style, but they quickly were able to be captured into flat earth drama because that's something they were used to. They that was where they were before. And so now they kind of missed that element of the whole drama thing, And so...
Okay, well, here's another question for you, Laura.
All right.
Let's say you're at one of your social gatherings with your group circle of friends or a new circle of friends, and you drop the flat earth topic into the conversation. Where are you going to refer them? If they said, ask what video should I watch, who would you tell them to go and watch?
Well, first thing, I don't refer them to go watch any video.
Somebody's really interested, right? Imagine you met somebody
early on, I may have referred them to one of the top 3 guys at the time, though there is no top 3 guys anymore.
Well, who would you refer them to now?
So now I would refer them to my own videos where we just talk about flat earth and stuff. Okay. I've got enough videos on here now where we've pretty much covered most flat earth topics. I know we were pretty hung up on the maps and the model there for a while, but at the same time, over the course of the last year, I think we've touched we've touched on quite a few topics. Also, if I talk to somebody, I invite them to use their observation skills to determine that the earth is not spinning and that it's not a globe. And the way that I do that is I, say, have you ever noticed, that when you're in an airplane that the horizon is at eye level, and then when you're on the ground, the horizon is eye level, and when you're on the ocean, the horizon is eye level? Have you ever noticed that before? Well, maybe you should pay attention to that. Or have you ever noticed these things about the way the sun moves and, the way the rays come through the clouds and, just actually things they can go out and observe? Because all I want them to do, they'll go look for things on their own after that. And I don't want to be responsible for sending them to somebody who may give them disinformation. I hope that they will have a discerning enough mind to be able to call through the BS. And because the problem is I would have to preface everything. I would have to say, well, you can go listen to this guy, but don't get sucked into the ice wall thing. Or you can go listen to this guy, but whatever you do, don't go to the Flat Earth Society page because they're disinformation. Well, because then I got to hear, well, why would Flat Earth Society be disinformation? Aren't they the group that you all belong to? I don't want to go through all that. So all I want to do is introduce them to the concept of flat Earth and to the concept of questioning NASA, the moon landings, the space program, the fake CGI stuff. I'll show them pictures of Earth from 5 different times and how the continents are all different sizes and colors and everything. I don't need to send them to anyone else.
All right. Well, flat Earth at the moment, the flat Earth community, whatever you want to call it, those people who have an interest in it and look at it most days, all that's happening is at the moment is that we are talking and sharing information and maybe telling a few people we meet on a day-to-day basis that could go on for generations and nothing much would happen. And some people on YouTube now are saying that we need action, actual action out there on the streets in numbers to actually get this thing moving and get some, bring it to more people's attention. So what sort of flat earth action would you, if there was enough people willing to go with it, what would you think would be a good thing to do? So, for example, if you could get together 50,000 flat earthers all to meet in one place, so like Mark Sargent and Patricia Skeer got about 20 people to turn up.
Okay.
Which Daniel Pratt told us about. He reckoned there was about 20. Was it Daniel Pratt? Somebody anyway, or Odd TV said they got about 20 people turn up. Let's say you can get 50,000 people to turn up together collectively. What would you do? Let's say you've got 50,000. Say, look, Laurie, there's 50,000 of us here. We want to get out there. We want to do something together. If we get all these people out there, the cameras are going to be there. What would you do?
Well, I tell you what, I was right on the front lines in my state, in my local area for the Occupy movement, Occupy Wall Street. And I watched that fiasco unfold. And I said, then this is the last time I'm ever going to get out on a street corner and carry a sign that I do not believe in public protest anymore, because the thugs in the police departments and the city administrations make sure that people who protest with, signs out on the street are belittled or put in jail or whatever. So no more protesting for me. And I am a believer in things like marches. If you can get enough people, you don't just stand still and let yourself get cuddled like a fish. You create a march, a parade. You literally go out and get a permit from your city, and you have a parade and you march. Then you carry signs or banners or whatever. We are flat Earth, and
you need a license to do that, do you?
Well, yeah, you got to go by the rules, because otherwise you're just a sit and duck. And that's what I got a target on my back from Occupy, and I'm not going there again. Okay. I'm not putting my life on the line for another person ever again. All right. Except it's somebody that I love and care about. And if that sounds wrong, if it gets to the point where everybody's going to do something, then I'm with you. Okay. I may even be a leader type, but I'm not going to orchestrate something like that again. Now, I've been on record for years and years and years about non-participation, non-cooperation, non-violent action. Okay. I read from the playbook of Martin Luther King Jr., and the civil rights movement was going along just fine until the Black Panthers got involved and the violence started. So if you can do something without violence, and you can do it with being, and I had a website and worked it for a while. It was called The Lazy Dissident, and it was a play on words that, we were government dissidents, but we were lazy, meaning we were doing an inaction, non-participation method. And so not paying taxes, not buying licenses, not participating in the system. In my opinion, if everyone would do it, or a large majority of people would do it, it would speak volumes. But you can't be afraid to not do it, because that's the only way you will ever get their attention. I made a Facebook post the other day about gun sales in America. Now, I know what your gun laws over in UK are, okay? But it took a while to dawn on me that they were actually promoting people buying more and more and more guns in the United States. All of these false flag school shootings and threatening to take your guns away just made 2015 were record gun sales in the United States. Okay. And it's not about us protecting ourselves or charging on the government with our guns. That's never what it's about. It's about self-protection that people are buying guns. But what they're thinking is that if and when a day comes where they orchestrate a shit hit the fan type of movement, okay, we'll all kill each other. We'll take care of each other. Because all of the efforts that they've been doing all these years to divide everybody, blacks against whites, religions against religions, gays against straights, you can just go down the list of all, Republican against Democrat, down the list of all the divisive methods they've used. That's all been pre-programming for us to go after each other. We're never going to agree on where the red line was that was crossed that the government did, that we're all going to go after the government. So they're smart. They know exactly where the red line is, and they know that they can push us all the way up to the red line, and they won't go beyond. And so that's why it's taking this long, steady, slow pace of taking away our rights day after day, charging us for licenses, raising taxes, on and on and on. And so it's our own fault that we allow them. It is nothing short of bureaucracy. There's no secret them. Them is us, the ones who the police and the military who have bought into the story that the Americans are going to take their guns and they're going to rise up against the government, and it's up to the police and the military to defend the government from the uprising. Okay? That's not ever going to happen. I can guarantee it will never happen that way. So getting out on the street and waving a sign around is just, they will scoff at that. They'll drop their mic. And so at the end of the day, the only way that we'll be able to make any significant change is stop paying for our own enslavement, stop voting, stop participating in the farce called, United States elections, and just stop participating. And they can't put everybody in jail, and they won't put everybody in FEMA camps. The last thing they want to do is feed us all or take care of us all. And so that's
an idealist sort of solution, but it's unlikely to happen apart from within the truth community, which in itself is a very, very small proportion of society.
No, see, I have to disagree there. I think the truth community is a lot bigger than we give it credit for.
How big would you say it is?
In America?
Yeah.
It's probably about a third of the people are truly disgruntled enough to where they've started researching and started learning about all of these things we've been talking about. The Federal Reserve and the banksters and all of that, okay? Most people in the United States are at least aware and disgruntled that shit's not right, okay?
So you would say about 80 million Americans are aware in some way or shape or form of things aren't what they're being told.
Yes, and then I would add to that the quiet minority, okay, who never says anything but knows and does research and talks among their family, maybe their close relatives, family, friends. And so I think well over half of the Americans are over the top disgruntled, okay? But sadly, they are not aware of their power and their ability to create their own solutions, because no one person's going to come up with a solution. I watched a David Icke video. Somebody, one of my Facebook friends sent me today a little bit of it, and he said that people are constantly writing him and saying, I used to listen to the guy years ago. I haven't for quite some time, but he said people are always asking him, you're always so negative and you're always telling us what's wrong, but you never give us any solutions. So why don't you give us some solutions? And he said, and I agree in this particular case, there is no solution. Every single person is their own solution. And everybody has to decide personally what the solution's going to be and what they're willing to do. And if they're willing to just keep getting their neck stepped on year after year after year and wait till the next crash happens, and it will in the United States, there's no doubt in my mind they're planning another crash. When it gets to the point where they're going to have to act because they're going to be forced to, then they'll independently come up with what their solution will be. Now, based on their own personal history and their own temperament, which solution will they use? Will they pick up their gun and just go shoot their neighbor and steal their food? Will they, storm the castle and head to Washington, D.C.? Will they, have they been planning all along for something to happen and they've got their, food stored up and their water stuff and all that? Probably not. But there is no solution that anyone could come up with on their own and that everyone would agree with. And
the other thing is that anybody who takes a line on it, like with Aaron Russo, when he was doing that thing about show me the law, which says I have to pay income tax. And there was that black lady. I'm not racist, but she was black, just so you know. She worked for the IRS, and
she was the director.
She's been to hell and back, and there was a famous actor.
Oh yeah, that lady was a whistleblower, right?
Yeah, was it Wesley Snipes who refused to pay his income tax or something?
Oh,
and he got
quite a few big names have refused.
So they always make an example of all these people who try to go against the grain. And I've tried it myself, and it doesn't work. So there is what you call a free man movement out there who look to not. They don't insure their car. They don't pay their car tax. They don't pay their council tax. But they get put through hell. And I tried it, applying common law when I got stopped driving my car once, and they said my MOT, which is a certificate of roadworthiness in the UK that you have to have for your car, and it was a day out of date, and I got pulled over by the police, and I did the free man thing on it, and the guy says, don't worry, there's no points on your license. It'll just be a £60, about $100 on the spot fine. And he says, just sign this piece of paper. And I says, no, I'm not going to sign that, because if I sign it, I'm entering into a contract with you, and I don't wish to do business with you because you're trying to enforce a contract on me. Anyway, so he was taken aback, and I says, I'm not signing it. I'm free to go. And he let me go, but they still sent all the paperwork out to charge me this £60. And I did all the Freeman thing on that and wrote back and did all the specimen letters. And then nothing happened for 6 months. And then I got a letter from some obscure agency who I'd never heard of, who had been referred on to them to take the money off me. And at the time, I wasn't working. I was out of a job, and they just deducted the money so much a week out of my benefits. So you can rebel against the system, but it's all geared up to stop you one way or the other. And like in the UK, there was a place in, I think this guy was being charged with not paying his council tax. That's the local tax that you pay for your refuse collection and street lights and all that. I saw that video. And they arrested the judge in Birkenhead, and it was like a public demonstration. It was all filmed in the court, and there's been things like where the bailiffs come to repossess your house. And they're like, you call it foreclosing over there. And what happens over in the UK quite a lot is you get a group of truthers who congregate outside the property where the bailiffs are coming to repossess the property, and they get the police involved on their side if they can. And in many cases, the bailiffs are put off at least for a while, but ultimately they'll come back and take the property off them at some time. That's what tends to happen. So the law is on our side, but they do not enforce the law for our side. They stick to what the official people say is how it should be, and they get away with it in the end, because the people who are behind the law are the criminals themselves.
Well, the only way that any kind of inaction will work is you have to have a majority of people that agree to cooperate together, or non-cooperate, as it were.
You need volume. Yeah.
You have to organize that. There has to be an organizer, and there has to be, a plan, because nobody's, it's kind of one of those things where if, everybody's standing on the edge of the 10th floor of a building on the top of the building, and then they're okay, we're all going to jump together. Everybody's going to look and go, you jump, you jump, because I don't want to be the first one to jump. Right. So that's kind of how this is, because no one wants the wrath of bureaucracy coming down on them by themselves. They feel more power in numbers, obviously. That's one of the reasons why Occupy did last as long as it did. And that was because there were a lot of people. When it started dwindling down a little bit, then, that's when the police and the local constable types and the sheriffs and the city police, chiefs decided that we have a significantly small enough number now that we can crush this, and that'll be that. So any kind of an inaction or a march or something, you have to have a significant number of people. And they know this. Bureaucracy knows this. We give them their power by our permission. And it's perceived that they have power because we don't stand up to them. I mean, any one of us or groups of us could go to any of our own city council meetings and say, we're done with you putting fluoride in the water. So just stop, because otherwise we're going to stop paying our water bill. Okay.
Well, you can do that in the States, can't you? Because I've seen that they've had referendums to remove the fluoride, but there's no such thing that can happen in the UK. But
they have had those referendums, and cities have voted to cease putting fluoride in the water, only to be overridden by the state, who says all cities of this amount of people, 10,000 people or larger cities have to fluoridate the water. That's a state mandated law. So they get you one way or the other, okay? And the Fed, maybe the Fed will turn around and override the state. That's the thing about the United States, is we have all these different states, and everybody thinks they're hotshots in their own state, and they have their own laws, which they do. But when it comes to being funded for mandating some of these laws, that money, the states pay taxes to the federal government, and then the federal government sends the money back down to the state, and that's how it works. So it's really a joke. This is not the government we signed up for, and unfortunately, this is the government we were born into. But I've been researching the foreclosure stuff for about the last 6 years, and I'm a foreclosure victim myself. I have been fighting a foreclosure. I'm on my second go around with the banks, the second bank, for 6 years, and I've been successful this whole time. I'm still in my house, and they frauded me as far as I'm concerned. I can only say so much because I'm currently involved in fighting them, but I wasn't going to roll over because I didn't do anything wrong, and I didn't cause the foreclosure, and the foreclosure was illegally and fraudulently served. So I had no alternative but to fight because my life savings was invested in my home. And so it wasn't my fault that, the banks needed to be bailed out, and it wasn't my fault that Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac were taken over by the, U.S. government. And it wasn't my fault that the banksters made bad deals with derivatives and mortgage-backed securities and lost their asses. And it wasn't my fault that I was told, all you have to do is apply for this, modification, and they'll change all the too high this and the too high that. And so when I saw all these other people selling their house short, which means over here selling it for less than you even borrowed on it to get out of it, then the government came up with a concept called cash for keys. We'll give you money to leave your house, so because it's cost us too much to fight it, so we'll give you money to move, maybe $3,000 or something, and you give us the keys back, and you don't trash the house. But as it goes, when I decided that I didn't do anything wrong and I wasn't going to be frauded and I wasn't going to give up that easy, did I know 6 years later, and the statute of limitations is 5 years, and I'm in 6. That's how screwed up our mortgage banking foreclosure system is. But if I hadn't fought, I would have been one of millions of people who either walked away or lost or got bamboozled by the banks or by the judges and these bottom feeder lawyers who work for the banks and the trusts and whatever. And so I'm an example of someone who said, no, I'm not going to participate in my own loss. It ain't happening. So if that helps anybody out there who's going through a foreclosure or any kind of a, beat the bank system or beat the system, it isn't about beating the system. It's about standing up for your rights. It's about standing up for, for your own personal investments. So enough about that. But that was one of the things that got me woken up about how banking works and the Federal Reserve and the fiat currency and the whole thing. I've been studying it for years. It was one of the things when Occupy Wall Street started up. I'm like, I'm there. Those rat bastards need to all go to jail because they screwed up a whole lot of people's lives and money and savings and earnings and lives. So non-participation works. You just have to stand up. You just have to be willing to hold your head up and not let the media went around for years. All people that are in foreclosure are deadbeats, or they just want a free house, or all this language that was orchestrated to make everybody else point their finger at those who got caught up in the trap, and it became an embarrassment because everyone believes, you're supposed to pay your bills, you're supposed to pay your taxes, you're supposed to pay. And I wasn't gonna pay for my own demise. That certainly wasn't going to happen.
Like in the States, people often refer to this Bill of Rights, the United States Constitution, or whatever whatever the president swears on when he goes into office. Wasn't that document drawn up by a bunch of Freemasons initially?
Yes.
So why would it be any good to anybody if its origins are from Freemasons? Well,
the group as a whole, the so-called founding fathers,
were they Freemasons?
They were. Some of them were, yes. Admittedly, some of them were, not all of them, but they were breaking away And so they had a camaraderie, so to speak, of breaking away from England. So they thought that they were building something that was, above the standard by which they had come from. And in principle, based on 200 and something years ago, it was a good plan. It covered most, if not all, of the bases. The problem happened is it only lasted a very short while, and we haven't been under that principle for a couple hundred years. I mean, it lasted a very short time before it was corrupted. And so anything that can be corrupted is not perfect. So why everybody thinks that we need to go back to the Constitution and, start over? Where do you want to roll the clock back to? 1776, 1976, 1876? Where do you want to go back to? When will that satisfy your desire to believe that was a perfect instrument? Because if it were so perfect, it wouldn't have been able to be corrupted, would it? And so I'm not interested in going back. The future will not be found in the past. The future will be found in free-thinking people who use the past, use history to be able to rise above that and see what went wrong. I mean, an example, our Constitution was designed for a checks and balances system. This part watched that part, and that part watched over this part, and this part watched over everybody. And then you were supposed to have what the fourth system was called, the fourth estate, which is journalism. And that was supposed to be watching over everyone. And then corporatocracy came along, and the journalists were all bought and paid for. And now we have nobody watching over anybody. And on top of that, the system was designed as a representative system. In other words, for every so many people, there was supposed to be a representative. And that, because we had no telephones, no telegraphs, and no way of communicating from each state to Washington, D.C., everybody had to go there. And while they were there, they all got hooked up in the good old boy buddy system. I mean, it's as obvious as the nose on your face what happened and where along the way it should have been stopped. And it should have, because at a certain point, when you have one person representing perhaps millions of people, how can that one person possibly know what the majority of his constituency would like for him to do? And while he's off in Washington, D.C., where we can't even keep our eyes on him, okay? So now you could take that same concept and you could come up with something like internetocracy, okay, whereby every person was their own representative. Why do I need anybody to represent me? I'm smart enough to represent myself. And, why can't there be a government internet website where they put, a list of all of the laws that somebody proposes that we should make, and everybody reads them and everybody decides, yeah, that's a good one, or no, we don't need any more. And, or if you just don't think you're smart enough or you don't want to participate, then you get somebody to be your proxy. But, only one person could have 10 represent 10 people as their proxy, and then you have to find somebody else. You see what I'm saying? There's ways to checks and balance any of this, but we haven't come beyond a system that was created hundreds of years ago, even though technology has allowed us now to be able to understand everything needing to go on in our country, everything needing to go on in our state and in our community, and be able to vote on it individually from our little iPhone.
All right, let's get back to flat Earth then, Laurie.
Okay.
I take a look on YouTube every day and filter out what's come out from that day and pan through it to see whether there's anything of interest. And sometimes I look at what the headline guys and girls are saying just to see what disinformation they're putting out. But the longer you're in this, the your attention span drops, so that it has to be something special that's going to capture your imagination, so you'll actually look at it. So there's far too much NASA stuff coming out. I mean, NASA's been proven beyond any shadow of a doubt. We don't need any more memes about NASA and proof that NASA are faking this and faking that. We know that, but there's so much focus on it. And you get Daniel Pratt, who has a great big rant about what's going on, and he wants action, and he thinks the solution is sorting out NASA. What would your solution be?
You mean as far as who would I focus on?
What do you want flat earthers to do? If you could direct every flat earther and say, "Look, this is what I want you to do," stop talking about NASA. I want you to, or the usual stuff that we all know about. What do you want to? What action would you like them to take to awake more people up to this concept?
Well, again, it's all about goals, and each one of us has a different goal for the outcome of flat Earth, for example. And my goal, it should be obvious by now, is that we need an entire new system of governance in our country, and definitely in the world. I mean, I've been anti-New World Order for as long as I've known about it, years and years, decade. And how do you get a whole bunch of different people who don't agree on what the outcome should be of learning about flat Earth? I mean, most people will tell you they just wanted the elite to be out of power. Okay. Nobody knows who they elite are except for the top of the banking chain, which is typically who they call out, like the Rothschilds, for example. Okay. Or the Jesuits, or, nobody knows who they are. And so the whole outcome, as far as I'm concerned, of what flat Earth means to me is that humans, individuals, wake up and free themselves. Once you free yourself, then you can work with other people to free other people, or to just live a free lifestyle. If people see more people living a free lifestyle, meaning their mind is free of the propaganda and the programming and the indoctrination, then monkey see, monkey do, I guess, if you want to call it that. If it were in a perfect world for me, people would stop participating in their own control and take control back of their own lives, their own world. And the only way for that to happen is individually and then collectively. There is, I said just a little while ago, there really is no one solution. There are actions, okay? For example, somebody's tried to start a flat Earth Day on Earth Day 2 weeks ago, or whatever, whenever it was, week or so ago. And they wanted, everybody to call it Flat Earth Day. And there was never any definitive action anybody was supposed to take, except maybe go on Earth Day promotional websites or programs and tout the Flat Earth Day for just to get the word out. What are we trying to do here? What is the awakening? What is the effort? Because just telling everybody, if all of a sudden everybody just goes, okay, the Earth's flat, now what? That actually in and of itself would not change a thing. That's reality. That just everybody knowing what the Earth is shaped like would not change a thing unless they decided that they don't want to be controlled anymore They don't want the new world order that's coming. They don't want the wars and the poverty and the starving children in Africa and all the other horrible things that are going on in the world. So that's a consciousness thing. That's not an action. That's where each individual person cares and does something individually.
Do you think you're going to end up being disillusioned with flat Earth as time goes on? If nothing much seems to happen, and it's just it's like what's the word? The broken record, where the same stuff just keeps happening, and you get new people coming in.
I can answer that. I'm already disillusioned with much of it because I already know a whole lot more than I did a year ago. And I feel pretty confident that I know everything I need to know that I can know right now, as far as the Earth is not a spinning ball and that we've been lied to. That is pretty much the extent of what anybody needs to know until we get control of being able to do some kind of expeditions and exploration. Okay, I've been saying that from the beginning, but where does that come from? Does that come from the rich and taking the banksters' money away and spending it on the things that we want to know about? No. Do we take over the science community and use all the grant money to do research and exploration of the Earth and bust over that 2-mile high ice wall in Antarctica? Is that what do we want? What do we want? Nobody's defined that particularly.
Well, I might have to go there myself, but I want evidence that the sun is circling around us, and there are people who are flat earthers who live up in Scandinavia and Finland and Sweden who could verify that for us. They've just got to go out early one morning when the midnight sun's out and prove it to us. Nobody has. So
look at me. I would love to have the opportunity to look through some $25,000 telescope to see how far I can see across the ocean or wherever, and be able to determine, some visual things for my own brain. How far can a human see, and what devices do help? And, we each have our sort of pet idea of how the flat Earth works. To me, again, it doesn't matter how big the flat Earth is or what the shape of it is. I'm more concerned that someone tried to fraud me. You see, that's one of the reasons why I've been fighting for 6 years on this foreclosure, because someone tried to fraud me. And they're, the scientists and the people in the know, people who know more than I do, have tried to fraud me and everybody else that we live on a spinning ball. I'd like to know why. I'd like to put a very bright light in their face and then some handcuffs behind the back and their feet strapped to a chair and say, answer the question. Why have you lied?
It is the word flat Earth is finding its way into lots of phrases now, though, isn't it? And Kerry's dropped the flat Earth in one of his speeches. I don't know. Has Donald Trump mentioned flat Earth yet?
Oh, it wouldn't surprise me. I mean, he's the king of 2-word sentences, so flat and Earth ought to be one of them. But
is he really?
Yeah. It's really about freedom to me. Flat Earth is equivalent to freedom to me. It's freedom of mind, freedom of will. It's interesting that I fight things like the New World Order, even though I look at the premise upon which they built their ideal, the one world government. Seems like a great idea. It's just I don't want the ones that want to be in charge to be in charge of it. You see what I'm saying? No borders and no boundaries and no countries. That kind of sounds like a great idea, that anybody could go anywhere, anytime. And that sounds quite utopian. But I don't want them to decide how that's going to work. You see what I'm saying? That's why self-regulation and self-determination and self-control are ultimately what it's going to take for my utopian idea to come to fruition. And I don't think humans are quite prepared for that, not with the kind of education, indoctrination, and propaganda they've been trained with their whole lives. So you're right. It was going to take several generations to, I went went to the Venus Project. Have you ever heard of the Venus Project?
It was on the Zeitgeist thing, which was a bit propaganda-ish itself, wasn't it?
Jacques Fresco is the creator of the Venus Project. Unfortunately, he allowed that Zeitgeist Peter guy to co-opt his idea, but he later broke free of that, back away from him. But I went to the Venus Project, and it's been very maligned for a long time on purpose, because it's a really cool project. And it's called the Venus Project because it literally is in a place called Venus, Florida. It's not about like Venus the planet or any of that Illuminati bullshit. It's in Venus, Florida. It's a little nowhere town in Florida. So I went there, and my boyfriend and I, we went there, and we sat for 4 or 5 hours and talked with Jacques Fresco with a handful of other people, and listened to him explain his project and explain the resource-based economy and so on and so forth. And ever since I heard about that and learned about it, I've thought, wow, what a great idea. I mean, it's such a great idea. It's too bad that there's greed and everybody always wants to control other people, and there's psychopaths and, so on. And it can't work with that. And Jacques himself said, you can train people to be better humans if you use the right methods. In other words, stop all of the division stuff. There's only one race. It's human. People aren't from anywhere. They're just from wherever they happen to be born. There's no such thing as, shouldn't be any such thing as greed or boundaries or hatred or any of those things, because all of those things are a byproduct of money, of the financial system. And without money, which is what a resource-based economy is, a lot of all of those things just they go away. If nobody owns anything, then there's no reason for greed. You see what I'm saying? So the first person will say, oh, well, that sounds like, communism to me, or whatever. And you go, well, compared to past communism, it sure is. But there is a way to create a new system without it being communism. You just have to agree. There again, you have to agree. So that's why I get disillusioned with flat Earth, because at first, when I got involved in it a year ago, I believed that oh my gosh, this is it. This is the catalyst that will be the power play that all of us will have to show that the liars run the world, and, and the rich and powerful. And this will be a way for humans to take it back. And then what?
Well, I don't know, but the way I see it is that there was the Flat Earth Society that was in existence, which is widely acknowledged by present-day flat earthers as a controlled opposition, and they don't have much of a voice now. They're largely ignored because when people go to the page, they treat it as a big joke. And it's been just transformed to another largely controlled opposition And a lot of the people that are actually getting involved with Flat Earth now, it's sad to say, but a lot of these people, they weren't paid much attention to previously, and they've done a few YouTubes and they've had a few likes and they've got a few followers, and now they've got something in their life, and it's more about a social thing that they've got somebody to talk to now that they didn't have in the past. And they're probably not really bothered which way it's going to go. It's giving them some kind of social purpose in their life. And
well, I'm okay with that. I mean, I hear you, but I'm okay with that. At least they have found a bond with somebody that is, but Laurie, not a user.
Apart from you and myself and, a few others who speak out a bit, do you not agree that Flat Earth is largely another controlled opposition now? It is not, a community that is actively trying to seek the truth. They're just going along with what the headline names are going with, because there's very little people speaking up against it. You've got Star Gods, but he seems totally focused on talking about Mark Sargent and Patricia Steer. He doesn't seem to want to talk about much else at the moment.
Well, listen, Lawrence, the Flat Earth groups are just a reflection of humanity as it is. In other words, just like in high school, you had the geeks and the nerds and the whatever. In that respect, Jesse was correct in his analogy of using the Breakfast Club. In the Flat Earth community, you have outgoing people and shy people. You have, science-minded people, and you have religious-minded people. And you have, you can go back and forth, and any combination of all of them, okay? And that's the humans that represent Flat Earth. So there's no agreement anywhere. I don't know that it's divided on purpose. I think it's naturally divided based on the way we were brought up. None of us wants to be all the same. That's obvious. We've never wanted that throughout history. The world wouldn't operate very well if we were all just a bunch of robots. And so you've got your creative types and you've got your, not so creative types. And, you get my drift. So it's a representation of the cross section. It's a microcosm of the macrocosm of humanity. Especially in the westernized countries, which is where this is prevalent. And that has to also kind of flip a switch in your head. Why is it prevalent in the westernized countries like Australia, Canada, the United States, the UK? Why are those targeted, and why? Because if it was a created movement, why were these areas targeted? That's a very important aspect to look at as far as I'm concerned, because yes, we have Facebook people in our group on Facebook that are from all different countries, Greece and Romania and all over the place. But all of the countries that are represented are westernized and most English speaking. Why do you think that is?
I don't know, but it seems like it's just fracturing into lots of subgroups within groups, and it's you had the flat earthers to start with. It was the flat earthers versus the ballers, and now mostly the infighting is not with the ballers; it's within the flat earthers themselves. And you've got your religious community. And,
well, yeah, look how much trouble I have keeping things corralled within that group of a couple of 3,000 people. Where, if somebody brings up in Job 37, blah, blah, and then somebody goes, oh, you and your Bible thumping, and then here it goes, and then you say, okay, no more posting about the religious aspect. You can bring it up within a comment, but not as a post in and of itself, because you have people who are atheists, you have people who are about Muslims and Buddhists and other religions. And let's try to keep this about the flat earth and not about religion. And then, oh, now you're trying to censor me. And, I've banged my head against the wall.
Let me ask you a question then. Why is it all right for the likes of Brian Mullen to use conventional science in his presentations, yet when I talk about the diamond-shaped map, and part of the information I used was conventional science on longitude and latitude? Why is this science okay, and why is mine no good? And why has nobody debunked that map yet? Because nobody has. Nobody's come back and pulled it apart and say, well, this don't work, because it fits for the distances, it fits for the shape, it fits conventional science, it fits for the airline routes, it fits for, everything. All it needs is, the ability to travel, across boundaries between east and west. Even free and energy.
If you combine your model map with free energy's square model map.
Well, he hasn't debunked it. I've spoken to him. He can't debunk it. He can't debunk the longitude and latitude. I've put the question to him and he can't. All he says is that things might travel faster as you move north and south of the equator, but that's just pure speculation. I'm not aware of aircraft traveling faster if you're flying. Right. North of the equator.
Well, he's anti-AE map and has been for quite a while. Okay. And at the end of the day, does it make any difference between his model and your model? Because his model makes the sun and the moon work, even though you have to get into some fourth dimensional stuff and some time travel looping or something for him to make his model work. Okay. And what's interesting is that if you get to the point where you understand where we went, if you understand where free energy has gone, and you get to the point where you expand your thinking to the fourth dimension and what's outside of our realm, then you suddenly don't have anger anymore about understanding how it's working, okay? The people who have anger are the ones who went from a ball earth to the AE map and the model of the circulating sun and moon to, sorry, that doesn't work. Now this is another imaginary thing, okay? For some reason, they don't think that the AE map and the model are imaginary. You see, they to me, it's just as imaginary as the globe, because I can't get above it and see it happening, okay? The higher we go up, the higher the sun's up there. So we can't get above the sun, and we can't get above the moon, and we can't get high enough to look down and see them going in a circle. So to me, it's imaginary, okay? I can't help that. Just because when you go up really high and the perimeter looks kind of like a circle, the way the light's refracting or showing in our curved, I don't know how to explain what we're seeing, but just because I see what looks like a high blue color of atmosphere doesn't automatically make me go, oh, well, there's the ice wall. Okay. That's not my natural inclination, because I can't wrap my mind around a 2-mile high ice wall, 90,000 miles around a circle. So, and then what's beyond that? Okay. So that part of it, and it's like I haven't given up. So I don't want to actually use those words, but I have made it less important to my overall understanding of how the flat earth works, because it could be none of the above. It could be, a computer simulation. It could be the Matrix. It could easily be any combination of any of those things. Okay.
If you want to buy yourself an interesting present, I think you can buy them on Amazon. You can buy what's known as a true mirror. Have you seen a true mirror?
Mm-hmm.
So you see yourself as others see you. Because it's like if you hold up some writing to the mirror, it always appears in reverse. You can see buy a true mirror and see yourself as others are. So everything is reversed, isn't it? Including yourself. You never see yourself as you really are. Yeah, it's pretty trippy. It can be quite a shock to see yourself as you really are.
Well, yeah. I mean, have you ever taken a mirror and put it half in front of your face and realized that you actually look like two different people? If you double this side or double that side, you look like two different people.
Anyway, before I forget, I mentioned it earlier, but if anybody's watching this, if you'd want to take part in my mapping out the sun, I'll see how many people get involved, and then I'll put some self-explanatory instructions. It should be self-evident what you need to do anyway, but we want it filmed, and I'd like to see some YouTubes on it on June the 20th, 21st, 22nd, when the sun is supposed to be completing its largest circle. So, if you're up in the UK, the sun should be nearly completing 3/4 of a circle if it's out for 17, 18 hours of the day, more if you move up further north. Anybody who wants a free compass, I've bought about 20. I'll mail one to you at my expense, and we'll get some results in. And I will be fascinated to see, what these results are when they come back, because I want to see where the sun's actually going.
I have a similar
on the show.
I have a similar request, but different.
What's your request?
Not everybody knows how to make videos, and not everybody has something to say, and not everybody is a scientist or a map maker or any of those things. But there is one thing that everybody in the flat Earth has in common, and that is, just like we were talking about earlier when Lawrence was questioning me about what's your solution or what would you like to see happen as a result of the flat Earth. What do you got?
I've got 20 of those.
Okay.
Compass.
And you can learn how to read a compass by just going on YouTube and typing in how do you read a compass.
A compass. It's pretty self-explanatory. The red bit points to the north.
Okay, so to finish, because Lawrence always does distracting stuff like that to me, and I have to,
I wasn't trying to hypnotize you, but I think
you were. You were trying to make me come up with a solution. Okay, so if you want to, you can make a video with your phone and upload it to YouTube, or if you have a video camera or whatever. I'd like to hear what and I'll compile them. If you'll upload them to somewhere, I'll download them and compile them and make a sort of documentary of what you would like to see as a result of the flat Earth awakening, and what kind of outcome you would like to see for the world, for humanity, whatever like that, to see if people actually have some kind of goal associated. Because everybody that I've talked to for the last year said, it makes me feel so free, and I feel so, awake and alive and so on, for having this knowledge that I have, I'm not being lied to anymore about that, or that I've overcome the lie. So if you'd like to make a video, it can be short or it can be, 5 minutes. It doesn't matter, of what you'd like to see as the outcome for flat Earth, and what you'd like to see as an action for flat earthers to take, either or both. I invite you to do that. And like I said, I'll compile them and make a quick little documentary about it, or a long one, depending on how many I get. But either alert me through sending me a message through this channel or on Facebook. It's Lori Frary on Facebook, my name, and I have a public Facebook page. So I think that would be interesting to find out after, because I know people I've known for a year now on Facebook and in the groups that have been doing this that long. Somebody's got to have something good. Okay, so that's all I have. What about you, Lawrence?
Well, I'd just like to go and see the midnight sun, and it might be quite a spiritual thing to do.
I'd like you to be able to do that too. That's a good goal.
Yeah, I would, and that will put an end to it one way or the other. But I have been speaking to Free Energy, and I said to him, what happens if I manage to raise enough money to go and have a holiday up in the north of Finland somewhere on the longest day of the year when there's the midnight sun? What am I actually going to see? And he said you'd actually see the sun complete a circle round you, but it isn't. It's just the bending of light. Now, I could buy into the sun doing a 180, but I find it hard to buy into the sun doing a 360. If it really did do a 360, there's no video out there that proves it. There's only that one that they keep showing with the sun.
Right, but that thing's edited the hell out of, and there's no way to know. Yeah,
I know. But I know people who in flat Earth groups who actually live in Sweden, and I asked this particular woman who was in this group I was in to actually go and do it last year, but she didn't, which is surprising because if I live up in Sweden, that's the first thing I'd be doing. You know, I'd be just getting in my car and driving us right to the north on the longest day, you know, in my car and make a video.
No, after watching his 4D version of with the sun ball in the middle and how the light comes down and bends down, I agree that he may be right, that you might see a close to 360 degree sun around you, but it's not because it's going around in a circle.
I know, but I have my head difficulty getting my head around it, where I would actually be able to physically see the sun do a full 360 around me, even if it is an illusion. It's still hard to get my head around it.
Well, I've had people say they've seen that, so and called me a liar, you know, or whatever, because I said I just don't think it's possible. Why don't you show me? And they haven't been able to show me, but they swear and be damned that they see a 360 degree sun from Sweden.
And you get the same thing in the South Pole.
Well, you know,
you get shadows in every direction in the South Pole.
So it's got something to do with the perimeter of our enclosure.
Yeah, I mean, it could be something to do. Could be something to do with smoke and mirrors. You know, I'm sure mirrors come into it. Yeah,
possibly.
It is. It's probably some kind of trick.
All right, Lawrence. It's been fun.
Yeah, we're back on. Just catching up on what's been going on. You know. We'll see what happens. You know, Free Energy's put another video out today, so I'm going to watch it when I finish chatting to Laurie.
Sounds good.
He's talking about curvature, so that should be interesting, and the ships over the horizon. So he's probably going to put a different stance on it.
I will definitely like that one myself. All right. So thanks everyone for watching, and appreciate you bearing with our off-topic dalliances here and there throughout, but the flat Earth has to do with everything, and everything has to do with the flat Earth. So it's all tied. So until next time, thanks for joining us. Thank you, Lawrence. Had a great time, and see you next time.
See you later, folks.
Bye.